Hey, good afternoon. How you feel? Okay, I'm in the building. Troy Terrain, aka Star, and this afternoon's show is Jussie Smollett, the new Tupac. Right on the screen. I'm dead ass. I'm dead ass. How are you? How are you? Thank you for joining me yesterday. Those of you on my other YouTube channel, we did a live broadcast. Watching that horrible Super Bowl. But I was rooting for the Patriots anyway, so a win is a win. Anyway, let's get down to business today. In case you're not up to speed, this past Saturday, Jussie Smollett performed in Los Angeles at the Troubadour. Sold out. Crowd of 400. Tickets were actually double the price right before the concert. That's information we gave last week. So my question is very serious. Is Jussie the new Tupac Shakur? On the stage this past Saturday, he addressed his situation. That's what I'm calling for right now, because we still have not seen the suspects. Right now there are persons of interest, last I heard, but no real suspects. He addressed his situation, dilemma about being attacked, allegedly. And he spoke about his ribs being bruised but not broken, about his doctors saying he was okay, or they cleared him, his two doctors, to perform Saturday. And then he said, and most of all, I fought the fuck back. I'm gay Tupac. That's what he said. Jussie said that. Gay Tupac. So I have to ask you now, is he the new Tupac? People have claimed to be Tupac over the years. 50 Cent, Troy Ave, a host of others. And we're going to have a rational conversation. Phone lines are open right now, or you can join the conversation via Super Chat. The link is right up under the video screen. And if he is the new Tupac, is that a bad thing? Real talk, is that a bad thing? Up until 1973, and many of you know this already, up until 1973 here in America, homosexuality was classified as a disease, a disorder, a phobia. And let me just say early, no one in America has been more supportive of the gay lifestyle than African Americans. No. In fact, the black church has been a safe haven for homosexuality over the decades, over the centuries. Yes, the black church. So let's not play that game about, people of color hating on gays here in America. No. People of color, primarily African Americans and Hispanics, have never been, out there, hanging gay people, beating and killing them. We don't have to beat up on white people to prove that point, but that's a reality here in America. So, with that being said, how do you feel? Do you think that Jussie Smollett is the new Tupac? Also, at the end of his concert this past Saturday, he said, you can go to TMZ to see the video or hear the audio. He says the time now is to be blacker and gayer, in that order, blacker and gayer. How do you feel? And also, for those of you new viewers, new subscribers, in case you don't know who I am, I've been awarded actually by the LGBT back in 2005, late 2005, 2006, by Willie Ninja and Kevin Omni. Yes, myself, a heterosexual straight man, because of my support and my understanding of the struggle here in America with regards to gay people. So here it is. Here's the award for those of you who never saw this. Who remembers when Willie Ninja came on my show? Along with Kevin Omni. I've got many awards, but this one is very dear to me because Willie Ninja, in case you don't know, is one of your pioneers with regards to pop music and bogey. He taught Madonna how to bogey. The whole song and the video, Vogue. That was Willie Ninja, who actually choreographed it and inspired the world. So it's an award that I hold dear to me. And Kevin Omni, great guy. Also, in case you don't know, the documentary, well, two documentaries, Paris is Burning. Most of the guys who were in that particular documentary, I knew them. I rented apartments to them back in the early 80s. Michael Princess, Erskine, Andre, Rose, Andy, Color, and a host of others. And the documentary, How Do I Look? I had the whole cast on my show back in late 2005. So I'm someone that is sensitive to that particular journey. But right now, here we are in 2019, is Justice Smollett and a Tupac. Good afternoon in the live chat. How are you? We just acknowledge a few people before we get into the phone calls. Also, if you want to talk about 21 Savage, you know, I have nothing sideways to say about this young man. He has, to my understanding, I don't know if it's music like that, but he has done some good things in the last year. He has turned his whole thought process around, and he's been talking about business and other things. Who cares if he's from the UK? Slick Rick was born and raised in the UK. Are we supposed to now clown him? If he is indeed from the UK, that's what multiple reports are saying. You know, he's here, pardon me, on an expired visa. So what? I'm not clowning for that. When he started out doing in terms of his music, it's something different now. I think he should be commended. And salute to the people who dragged Debbie Lovato. Can you imagine this alleged crackhead bitch coming home from rehab and up on Twitter laughing at 21 Savage. Now, supposedly, according to BlackTV.com, he has shut down her Twitter and rightfully so. Kickboxing. Now, thank you. Come home from rehab and get rid of the black. Also, not a lot of people, but maybe 10 people will be about $1,000. I have nothing to say. I'm 54, 40. You know, some things I don't feel comfortable addressing, you know. I never went in a position to, well, a younger female, I don't know her business. I have commented on her months ago saying something. I don't know her business. It's not my business. Her audience, the whole, you know, street thing, yada, yada, yada. But thank you, young woman, I would want her second installment. I thought that was a bit much, but again, I had nothing to say about her. But I did see Ynsdks going in heavy, okay? And I think that's it right now. That's what I think the side is. About Justice Smollett. It isn't even in Tupac. And also, again, we did a show last night on my other YouTube channel. And some of these super chats got asking Sucio. Good afternoon, sir. Super chat link. Studio last night. Thank you, sir. Eight-letter man. Good afternoon, sir. A show on Super Bowl Sunday. So forth, yeah. All right, welcome back to Super Chat. And I'm dead ass. Well, mainstream media giving him this out. He's out for that crazy story. You imagine? Alleged imaginary attackers. He needs it out. We'll just need it out. I thought it would be this, and he brought back. He's like Tupac. Area code 917. Good afternoon, 917 is Justice Smollett, the new Tupac. Hello? 917, are you there? Let's go, 917. Okay, moving slow, alright. Let's go to area code 336 is Justice Smollett, the new Tupac Shakur.
Now y'all start.
Okay. Good afternoon, how are you, man?
Alright, man, how you doing? So you being North Carolina.
Okay, what's poppin', home?
Ain't nothing, bro. Homie, check it out, man. What does the cut on the eye equate to 5 foot? 5.
Okay.
So nah, man, you're trying to rewrite the devil because in this day and age of speech, why that number one?
Yeah, I have to say support to YouTube bloggers and bloggers that have been questioning his story. And I don't like to call people liars, But the story sounds like bullshit. All sorts of holes have been shot through it. So I'm now at the point where I want to ask: is he the new Tupac? That's what he said. He said,
Like shade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Snoop Dogg, Jamie Foxx on my side. I got sway to the right. Snoop Dogg about to drop a right. I come back with a scratch from the DJ. You wanna run the say what he say? It's Snoop Dogg, that's the double O. Jamie, see me, that's it. L4, let me take it down and show you the skill, cause I can do it. But then I shit. They had something on the internet about a white girl, but I didn't know that. I didn't shit. Maybe they were rich. They kept with my mission. On my mission, it really didn't matter. It was right about now, my mind get the real power as I sang. Damn, and I gave it some game. I said, this was so funny because of what and that's the whole run. And if you do that, I mean, you show me that you know, but rock on yourself, get a shot, take your life back, make it to your block, so you die. Talk about S-N, double O-P, cause you will be A-D, you feel me?
Love to get you on your knees. Can I see you smoking weed?
Watch this real quick. Wake your ass up, sway in the morning. I brush my teeth and now I'm yawning. I jump in the Spider Man, hands down the street, struggling to get to the radio.
Sorry, it works. TGE, got some Trump fans. So that going and then
I said, I kept pushing on to the spot. When I got there, I had to drop it like it's hot. I had to open my pocket and drop it. I put me over at the text. I shot the nigga. So I can get correct. All of this in my pocket door is with conversation. Time to learn that shit. They have over one other side. And this is the most guy on the radio. I'm just saying, 4-5. Wait, we put it up. I had to be a little bit. I'm fuck it up. I'm telling you, I said the left that. I'll be good for that. I can do the shit because I'm working out of breath. My breath still good as I'm brushed with some better product. It's going to smell that. Very good.
There's nothing but love to say. Open no more than where my niggas sway. And my niggas do. What you wanna do?
it's the #1 highest rated show on Sony Cracker. So I'm betting on it.
What are your thoughts on 6ix9ine right now in his situation?
I feel. I don't think how. The 6ix9ine is not from the street. I like them because, like I like Soulja Boy. Like when we came, I looked and I was like, he's 16 years old. He produced the record, made the dance, got his homework, and then shot it. I want to see him have a hit. That guy who does it. Like, I couldn't do that at 16. So I thought he had something like this. I was like, yo, he's special. You know what I'm saying? They do all that. And then with 6ix9ine, his imagery was stronger than music. Because middle America, people that actually purchase hip hop music, they can die to hit blind and die to hear those colors. You see what I'm saying? And then they see them in the element that they can. Hip hop guys be on safari, you close enough to animals out there and then. And they see them in the safari. In the middle of the whole pack, you put them, the little homies they had around me. And I said because when I use little artists because they like my crew's baby brothers. You know what I'm saying? They're younger. The next little of it was around. They don't go. So while he was talking, that's why he said something. Anybody says something. Because you know for sure they're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? That was giving me the confidence to do that, but I'm looking going, I don't know, look, the guys actually chose that lifestyle, they're conscious of it. I mean, what is they turn. Did you ever have a combo with that? You know, because, I mean, I'm sure it was interesting to me because I could think about what it would have been like in social media in 2003. So I'm sure you saw like, yo, this is really my son. Like, I'm looking at my whole blueprint. So, but you knew what came with that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And what you saw for me was over time. He was doing it in such a short window for me. He was commanding a different level of potential. Culturally, they're going gang. When I go on record with you, I go, I am not gang. Immediately. Because I don't like Rico. I don't like the spirit. Right. You know, give me a homicide right there. I'll take a homicide right there. Give me that. John Gotti woke up the courtroom and said 3 times until he started going and tell him how down homicides. And then they come, Rico, and then he 23 and 1 married. You know, it'd be crazy stuff like that. Those laws were designed for you not to escape. You know, so it would be a tough. That tournament, I saw in the paper. I feel like he's gonna tell on everything. That was the part that wasn't even really that. The stuff that there's only we talked about is not even that. So he's offering that along with everything else, and then he added those new people to that. So in 2019 and 2020, can this whole situation happen with 6ix9ine and then him come home and still have a successful music career? Because we're in a different day and age. So I'm just I think if you can make music and people can hear it, but the original core and bass that he tapped into won't. Even though that original core bass, the fans, they really care if you really came from that. By everybody. They didn't look at him and say, people say, people say that to you. You know, nothing. Like they say that to you, like that's what the humor. Like he had personality and character, it's interesting to watch. Right? And you know, we're in a different space. It's so confused. I don't know why. But when Richard Simmons, the publication promoted that he was transitioning. He's gonna be a transgender. Okay. A court in LA ruled that there's no defamation in them reporting that he was transitioning because it's nothing negative about transition. But that's like me saying that you're a man. And if people believing that you're a man, or that you cut it off. You cut it off. Like, this is like, for me, it's like, I'm like, the court said what? We somewhere new.
Terrorized me. I said we had 190 crowd.
Gay Tupac.
What's bad about that is because random stuff like that, this day and age, people start calling that, but it's not. Right. That's all I got those call, man. I'm good at that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the call. Okay. Yes, we can have a rational conversation. We don't have to call Jussie names. I mean, we can have some fun, you know. We snap, sure. Let's go to area code 574. Good afternoon, 574. It's Jussie Smollett, the new Tupac Shakur.
Hell no.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. This is the thing with Jussie Smollett. He then got caught doing that crazy mess, and now he's not trying to do nothing but get some insurance. He ain't no Tupac. And matter of fact, let me address something first. One thing about Tupac is Tupac would not be out here with that homosexuality. No disrespect to that community. You hear me? No disrespect to that community, but Tupac was not with that type of stuff. And one thing about Jussie Smollett, you know, he was out here looking for the booty, ran into the wrong situation, And now, he been pushed into a whole nother goddamn thing, you feel me? But see, this is the thing though. This whole situation should have never turned political. And I feel like all that Justy is doing, well, should be, all he is doing is digging a deeper and deeper hole.
Yeah. And that's how old you say when you calling from?
I'm 27. I'm calling it. Yeah, it's Jay Jackson.
Okay. Listen, I appreciate I appreciate the call. I want us to take our time because, again, African Americans have been given a bad label as to being homophobic. African Americans.
Oh, okay, no.
Hang on, if I can just finish this piece, I'll come right back.
Go ahead.
He launched his campaign yesterday for the Black History Month. Did that intentionally. I think from what I see, he's going to try to do crazy the identity thing to basically votes from black votes. So you need to be on the lookout for that. But I watched this little campaign as video that he put out. I watched it on Twitter and somebody did a good job putting the video together, but I mean it's a bunch of bullshit. I was watching the Progressive Soapbox and Jamal Thomas said something and it stuck to me. He said one thing from 2016 is that he learned from Bernie Sanders is that Bernie Sanders taught him how to lie very good. Watching that video, it's like he's right on with that. So shout out to the Progressive Soapbox. But people to understand where this man is coming from, Cory Booker, and who owns him, you gotta find out where he gets his money. Now the people he's supposed to be in Washington D.C. fighting for don't have enough money for him to do that bid. So he's in Washington during the bidding of his corporate donors. Now, Cory Booker, he was the mayor of Newark, where he took, where him and Betsy Duval did a lot of damage in Newark. Just putting mechanisms in place to suck taxpayer dollars out of the public schools. He's been putting in these stupid voucher programs for these for-profit schools. And we know that a lot of these for-profit schools don't perform better than regular public schools. And then what about the kids that have to go to these public schools and now they have to work with that? They should stipend off the taxpayer dollars. If they wanted to do better, they could have done it. They choose not to. Everything in this country has to be privatized. They have to make a buck off of it. And if it's detrimental to your schooling, then so be it. And that's how they look. They don't look at education and schooling in this country as a right. They look at it as a privilege. So I went on Open Secrets and found Cory Booker's John and the amount of money that they have been paying him over a 5-year span from 2013 to 2018. It's February 2nd, 2019. The Cory Booker's been up there in Washington doing a whole lot of whoring. Paul White, $177,000. Norpac, $158,000. Now we all know, Norpac, we already know what kind of how they get down. Just go look up some of the people they have contributed
money to their campaigns, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Sullivan and Cromwell, $142,000. Gibson PC, $134,000. Greenberg Touring, $92,000. Corella Bryan, $92,000. Apollo Global Management, $88,000. Goldman Sachs, $88,000. Kirkland and Ellis, $87,000. Prudential Financial, $86,000. Lowenstein Sandler, $84,000. Morgan Stanley, $83,000. DLA Piper, $82,000. Microsoft Corp, $82,000. Walt Disney Company, $81,000. Cole Schultz at $9,000. Henry Crown and Company, $78,000. Graylock Partners, $76,000. Third Point LLC, $76,000. Chambers Sunbelt Group, $75,000. These are the giants of Cory Booker. They pay him to do their bidding. So if you honestly think that this man's going to do anything, all you have to do is just look in your bank account and it'll tell you what he's going to do to you. Folks, do not fall for the okie doke. This mofo does not have your best intentions. This has been another episode of Random Bullshit, and all you gotta do is follow the money. If you like the content, feel free to share it, like and subscribe to the channel. Peace, I'm out.
Technology transfer and the theft of intellectual property. The United
Homophobia, that's a phobia. The only thing black people in this country, for the most part, might be fearful of is white supremacy or the police. Black people have been very embracing and supportive of gays throughout history. That's a goddamn fact. You know, from James Baldwin to Martin Luther King Jr., who had many gay people around him. So let's not say what Tupac would not have been with. We don't know. He would have been very forgiving, as most of us already are. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but at the same, look, I look at it like this. A lot of us black people, we have no problem with the homosexual people. We're very welcoming with them. Right. And one thing about it, I think a lot of us, we affiliate a lot of the homosexual stuff that they do with race. And you know what I'm saying? And I think that's another thing that really bothers us the wrong way. When it comes down to a lot of things that the gay community does. I mean, a lot of them, they have no problem with it. I think a lot of us black men, we associate a lot of homosexuality with prison and the things that we go through with that. And I kind of think that's another reason why a lot of us, we kind of back out of that. But as far as Jussie Smollett, I feel like his situation, like he just got caught in the wrong, and now he's just digging a deeper and deeper hole. And what we need to do is come together as a community and talk to him and say, look, Jussie, just tell the truth. And if you want to take down Trump, let's take him down the right way. Let's not try to take him out with doing all this lying and all that other type of stuff. Yeah. I'm not no Democrat either. I'm just saying, like, if we try to go against Trump and the people that support him or whatever for being wrong, let's not start off with lies.
Okay. I thank you for your call, sir. Thank you.
I'm sorry to keep going on.
I appreciate the call. If you got more to say, let's go. I'm in no rush. You got more to say? You have the floor.
No. That's all I got to say, man. I create cartoons, dog. So hey, if you get a chance, man, come check me out, man. I'm all over the internet.
Okay.
Look up J Damage.
Shoot me an email. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Virginia Governor Ralph Northam to resign after first apologizing for a racist photo on his medical school yearbook page, then denying that it was even him. The loudest calls coming from Democrats who are saying he no longer has the support of his party. Northam reportedly held an unscheduled meeting with his top staffers last night as he considers his next move. Meanwhile, President Trump hinting at major news on the border and North Korea in tomorrow's State of the Union address. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom, Monday morning after the Super Bowl, everybody. I'm Sandra Smith.
And I'm John Scott. Bill Hemmer has the day off. President Trump building some excitement ahead of the big speech, teasing a big reveal, or maybe more than one. But he's keeping details under wraps.
We're looking at a national emergency because I don't think anything's going to happen. I think the Democrats don't want border security. But listen closely to the State of the Union. I think you'll find it very exciting.
Rich Edson's live at the White House this morning. Rich, that's a big setup. Good morning.
Yeah, it is, Andrew. Good morning. And senior administration officials says the president's message will be that politicians can end the stalemate in Washington. They can build new coalitions. Though many of the old divisions still remain, they'll be on display tomorrow night as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is seated behind President Trump, and Democrats and Republicans continue to argue over how to fund border security.
I think that she was very rigid, which I would expect, but I think she's very bad for our country. She knows that you need a barrier. She's costing the country hundreds of billions of dollars. Because what's happening is when you have a porous border, she's doing a terrible disservice to our country.
The president speaking on CBS about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi there, he has said he could declare a national emergency and unilaterally divert government funds to build a wall if congressional negotiators fail to figure out a deal on border security before some of the federal government shuts down again on February 15th. In that CBS News interview, the president says he doesn't take anything off the table. The White House is also expected to soon announce the location and date for a second summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. The president told CBS that we'd find out those details during tomorrow's State of the Union address or before, that there's a very good chance he and Kim will reach a deal, and that he likes Kim and they have fantastic chemistry. While the administration points out Kim has stopped testing nuclear weapons and launching ballistic missiles, North Korea has taken few significant steps to destroy its weapons infrastructure. Kim Jong-un says he's also expecting that the United States give North Korea sanctions relief, though the administration has said they're not going to get any of that sanctions relief until they have destroyed their weapons programs. Sandra?
All right, Rich Edson at the White House. Thank you. For more on all of this, here is America's Newsroom 18. Steve Hilton is here, host of The Next Revolution. Chris Sarwell, Fox News politics editor, and Marion Marsh, former senior advisor to John Kerry. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
All right, so Steve, I'll start with you first. Big speech tomorrow night. What are your expectations?
It's a really big opportunity, not just because it's a grand set piece and the president can command the agenda, but it's a really good strategic opportunity because he's got the opportunity to be reasonable and practical and constructive, just as the Democrats are kind of lurching off to the left and showing that they're really, especially on his war issue, being incredibly obstructionist. He can say, look, I'm the reasonable one, and I just pick out three issues, be it the border issue, as we discussed. He can say, look, I'm the one who has actually been making compromises. I've put deals on the table. You said no to everything. Let's finally get this done. Another one is infrastructure. That is something that everyone in Congress says they agree about. He can challenge them to get it done. And then finally, the big one that I'm not sure we'll see, but he really ought to focus on is healthcare. That is the big reason that it's Nancy Pelosi sitting behind him on that dais, because that's why the Republicans lost the House, basically. And he, I think, should challenge his party in particular to try and get something done on healthcare if he really wants to have a positive start to really what is the kickoff to his own re-election in 2020.
Let me ask for a show of hands. We just came through one government shutdown, the longest in our history. How many of you think there will be another one in less than 2 weeks?
Wow.
Wow, that's more than I expected.
And I think we hope we're both wrong.
Wow. Well, I don't care what y'all people do. That's your business, not mine. I think that there will be, at a minimum, a mini shutdown, right? A short shutdown is possible. But I think that the incentives are not there for either side. Now, I am more optimistic about the working group that is together, the bipartisan bicameral group, because they put all serious people. There are no chuckleheads in that group. they want.
Exactly how many chuckleheads are there in Congress?
I am not at liberty to say, but I have a list. But the truth is, these are serious-minded people who want a deal. And they can either go really big and make it about everything, or they can go really small and say that halfway between 1.5 billion and 5.7 billion is 3.1 billion, shut up and go home. They have options, and they're serious people. And the question for the president, I think Steve is 100% right about healthcare. I think he should totally do that. But the big question for the president is, are you selling what they're doing, or are you trashing them? Which are you doing? What's your choice here? Are you going to say, there's a group that's working together, I want them to succeed, or are you basically going to say, I don't care about them and I don't need them?
Yeah, I think the real point here is, will Donald Trump use the State of the Union tomorrow night to unite the country or unite his base? And if he focuses on immigration, it's more likely his base. The big opportunity he has, frankly, if he's going to focus on immigration, is two things. He should step up and say, first of all, I'm going to fund the rest of this year to keep the government open. That avoids shutdown, and everyone would see that as a goodwill gesture. And then the second announcement should be this working group. I'm going to work together with them. Let's put everybody together, bring in some experts, and work on the best way to provide security for our border. If he did those two things, that would change the dynamic. Unfortunately, I don't expect him to do that. I expect him to put the law on the table and everything else. And last point to both Steve and Chris, if immigration, healthcare, infrastructure, which he promised to do last year, he could have done all three when he had the White House, the House, and the Senate. He got none of them.
Final word on that, Steve, before.
By the way, we have heard from the experts, and they all say that part of border security is a physical barrier in key places. So the idea that we need to have some new conversation to establish that fact was basically everyone agreed about, even the Democrats. Well, I just don't want to give them the political victory. So, but I do agree with Chris that actually, if you listen to the people on that committee and the way they're talking about it, they do want to get something done, including funding for an actual physical wall. And they not call it a wall, but they want to do that deal.
All right. Meanwhile, growing calls for the governor to step down, Northam to step down in the middle of this controversy. Here he is. His statement on this issue over the weekend. Listen.
I stand by my statement of apology to the many Virginians who were hurt by seeing this content on a yearbook page that belongs to me. It is disgusting. It is offensive. It is racist. And it was my responsibility to recognize and prevent it from being published in the first place. I recognize that many people will find this difficult to believe.
His closest allies now, Chris, are calling for him to resign. What happens here?
I have to reach back to Mark Sanford to find a gubernatorial press conference as uniquely awful and terrible as that press conference. Did you see the part where he almost moonwalked? He was explaining the part where I didn't wear blackface that time, but there was another time I wore blackface, and when I did, I was being Michael Jackson, and the reporter says, can you still moonwalk? And he looks like he's making space to do it, and then his wife goes, no.
Not for the presence of his wife. We would have seen
and I, for one, am deeply regretful that I missed seeing Ralph Northam moonwalk in his self-defense. I would only say this. Ralph Northam, if I was Ralph Northam, I wouldn't be going anywhere. I would be, as a matter of fact, I would be digging in and waiting. And you know what I'd be waiting for? I'd be waiting for Republicans, because it'll be Republicans in the end. Even this is the guy, Dr. Death. This is the guy who, in the grimmest possible terms, talked about what Republicans and pro-life people say infanticide. They will come around on this issue for him because, on Covington Catholic and all these other things, Republicans are highly conscious about the lynch mob, the online, the internet mob. As it forms up, they're more sensitive to these issues. If I was Northam, I'd dig it.
But the Democrats are castigating this guy. Democrats, I haven't heard, well, I have heard one who said maybe he should stay in office.
And rightfully so. I mean, it is not a matter of whether Governor Northam resigns and steps down. It is when. TikTok.
But nobody can make him.
Well, the pressure is growing. You're going to start to see protests outside of the state capitol today, outside of his home and all that. He needs to step aside, allow the Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax, to become governor. He would become the second African-American governor of Virginia, the fourth in our nation's history, and allow him to have a discussion about race. And Governor Northam can leave office, become a doctor again, and do public good to try to make amends for this terrible chapter in Virginia's history. That's what he should do.
Well, yes, but I think that it's important to not allow this to be treated as some kind of terrible mistake from a large number of years ago that he has handled in this inept and pitiful manner. I mean, that's true, but let's remember that there's hypocrisy here too, because this guy who's behaved in this
disgusting manner in his own campaign, just 2 years ago, was using racism against his opponent. And in that campaign, I mean, the Democrats all talk about the Lieutenant Governor, the African American Justin Fairfax. This guy, Northam, refused to put him on his own election material, pandering to white voters in Virginia 2 years ago, not 1984. This guy is a racist today. That's why he should go.
Oh, man. Whoa. Look, I went to school in Virginia. I'm a West Virginian, and we're better. But I went to college in Virginia. I don't think Ralph Northam is a racist today.
I think his behavior shows that he is. I think his behavior at that press conference, his behavior in his campaign, the internet shows that he is. And he mustn't be allowed.
That's stupid.
He mustn't be allowed to turn this into some kind of mistake from a long time ago.
Which, by the way, as the very latest that we've heard from him, he's denying that he's even in that.
And again, what can you describe inept and pitiful? That is the correct two-word adjectival sandwich to make about Ralph Northam's response to this, no question. But I would just say, like, if the world will not, little note nor long reflect if Ralph Northam stays in office for another day or another 6 weeks. It's not, the issues here are huge, but I think we have to stay away from the tendency to pile on and grab a hold of these things. This is for something he and his fellow Democrats in Virginia are going to work at.
But I would say this, over the weekend, what was shocking to me, speaking of hypocrisy, were the number of Republicans who were demanding that he step down that day, and I've never heard them say that about Stephen King or Donald Trump or a whole host of Republicans who've done awful things as well when it comes to race. So at least let's be consistent here.
Done anything like that. Donald Trump has not appeared in a photo with someone dressed as a KKK. He's not done anything close to that. It's completely outrageous even to make the
When he was a
comparison.
landlord here in New York and the federal government sued him for discriminating because he would not allow African Americans to rent apartments.
This is why, by the way, people are so fed up with politics because the Democrats use race as a weapon when they want to. And then the race machine, the Democrats party as well as anyone else.
Our 18 will be returned in just a few moments.
Save some of that fire.
We will talk 2020, save that fire. Meanwhile, thank you very much for everything, by the way. President Trump addressing the nation. Tune in for all of the coverage tomorrow night. The President's State of the Union address. It'll all happen. We'll have it for you.
Now this Fox News alert on the search for a young mother of 4 in Kentucky missing for a month. In an exclusive interview with Fox News, state police give some disturbing new details, reporting that 22-year-old Savannah Spurlock was last seen leaving a bar with 3 men she just met. Authorities say she was taken to a home about 40 miles from the bar. We know that based on surveillance video, she was there before. She met 3 men and left with those 3 men at probably somewhere around 2:30 in the morning. And we know that based on her leaving that location, we know that she arrived at a location in Garrett County sometime after that. The men in question told police Spurlock left the house on her own, but they have allegedly not explained how she left without a car. Savannah gave birth to twins in December. Police have not officially identified any suspect in her disappearance. Anyone with any information is asked to call the Richmond Police Department.
Now, this General Motors to cut around 4,000 jobs in North America today. This is the second phase of a set of cuts that began last November. One advisor to the company calling it Black Monday. Charles Payne, host of Making Money with Charles Payne, joins us this morning. What does all this tell us, Charles?
There are 2 dynamics to this. One is a company that's, and I'm not trying to discard management, but it was mismanaged for a period of time. And what I don't like about this whole, it's sort of a disingenuous feel that somehow it's tariffs or the economy or something. They just had a really great earnings period. People are buying the trucks and SUVs. They've loaded up too many cars that nobody wants. They've made some very bad, poor business decisions. And I feel like they're taking it out on the workers. And this is the kind of thing that adds fuel to the AOCs and the Elizabeth Warrens out there. And I keep saying, General Motors goes out and buys 1 share of their own stock over the next year or so. It's going to really be ugly because people are going to wonder why you're firing these Americans, who are hardworking Americans. Now, there's another aspect to this that doesn't get told a lot. and it's retooling the company for the computer age.
Yes.
And finding the workers who have those particular skill sets, and some of them don't, even though they've been working at the industry for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, they're saying, sorry, just to get this in here, the way that General Motors is putting this out there, they say this is part of an effort to reduce operating costs back to $6 billion by the end of 2020. That's a short time in which they're going to invest in new generation.
Believing that there used to be this sort of relationship where a company like this would have retooled their workers so that they could actually make those electronic vehicles and autonomous cars.
You can build cars with robots now, and robots don't need pensions.
They don't need pensions, but even robots need to, be retooled. The software's got to be upgraded. There are some jobs involved in that as well. And the idea is, do you train a person that's been on the assembly line for 25 years, or do you just bring in someone else? And all these industries, but particularly General Motors, has to deal with this. I don't like the way they handled it from a public relations point of view, and I think a lot of people in these towns feel like that they're letting them down, and they probably are.
Meanwhile, you tied all this to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Interesting news here. She made this phone call, had this phone call with the UK Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn says the call gave him a first-hand look into how she's challenging the status quo. Liz Peek penned a piece on .com, and I know you had something to say about this. In that piece, she titles it Ocasio-Cortez warrants about anti-rich rhetoric is proof they don't support the American dream. In that piece, she writes, quote, the argument from AOC and Warren is that the rich don't pay their fair share.
Sports TV here. Shout out to the LBBC. Lifestyle boxing community folks don't know nothing, you know. Check it out, man. Gerald Big Baby Miller. Alright, so it looks like he may be facing Anthony Joshua. We did an interview where he said that the fight is 80% done. It's not official yet, but it's 80% there. He continues his reign of terror and harassing Anthony Joshua and Anthony Joshua's family. Gerald Big Baby Miller says that after he beats Anthony Joshua, he's still going to take Anthony Joshua's moms out on a date, okay? Which is, ultimate disrespect. Now, Gerald Miller said this before. Him and AJ had like a little face-off, and Anthony Joshua pretended like he heard Gerald Miller. Joshua was rushed off the stage and taken into a panic room where select media members were allowed to come back there to the panic room and interview Anthony Joshua. And back there, Joshua pretended like he just, what, you sit there? You sit there? And Joe Miller was given instructions, specific instructions by Eddie Hearn not to cause any ruckus in future events when he sees Anthony Joshua or Dillian White. Don't cause any commotion and stuff like that. So they put Joe Miller on a little leash. Okay, now it's going to be interesting here to see how Anthony Joshua deals with this. Okay, because I expect Gerald Miller, if the fight does go through, I expect Gerald Miller to continue to harass Anthony Joshua and get inside his head and say a lot of disrespectful stuff. Gerald Miller quite possibly may disrespect Anthony Joshua in ways that Joshua has never been disrespected. He may rattle Anthony Joshua. He may make Anthony Joshua very angry and get him in there and make him make some mistakes in the ring. I don't know. However, my prediction for the fight remains the same. You know what I mean? I think that Anthony Joshua is too much for Gerald Miller. Gerald Miller has shown me that he has stamina for his size. He definitely does have that. He seems to have a good, solid chin. Okay, but that's against the guys he's been fighting. We know that when he sparred Deontay Wilder, he was given a concussion, and that seems to have bothered him for all this time. He's irritated by getting a concussion. He got excuses for getting a concussion. For Wilder, talking about he was, drained and, dehydrated and all this kind of weird stuff or whatever. So now, Joshua being a heavy puncher as well, what's going to happen when he gets into the ring with Anthony Joshua? I personally think Anthony Joshua's going to beat the dog shit out of Gerald Miller. I really do. I think this is going to be a brutal, savage beat. Now, like the brother Retro Boxing documentary said, my brother Blood, he said, look, if what if Gerald Miller can take Anthony Joshua's punches? Now, if Gerald Miller can take these shots, you know, it's gonna be a long night for AJ. But Gerald Miller has shown he can outwork anybody. You know what I mean? And he looks like he can see him. If you would look at his physique, you would think, oh, okay, I'll take him in the deep water. Past 5 or 6, he's gonna be tired. But Gerald Miller, you know, he got great stamina for his size, over 300 pounds, and keeps coming forward, he throws a lot of punches for a big man. So if he can take Anthony Joshua punches, then I agree. This is gonna be a long night for AJ, and we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? But I'm expecting Anthony Joshua to stop Gerald Miller. You know what I mean? But hey, if Gerald Miller can pull off the upset, we'll see what happens. Y'all let me know what y'all think. 78 Sports TV. Shout out to the LDBC, and I'll
Cool. Yeah, that's the question today. Is Jussie Smollett the new Tupac? I don't know his music, but I can assure you it's gonna start getting programmed on radio stations. I can assure you. I did radio promotion for 5 years along with Mark.
We welcome into Sports Center the former #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd, welcome back. We've missed you, Floyd.
Hey, how you doing? I'm not no former #1 pound-for-pound fighter. I'm just saying I'm the best fighter in the sport of boxing. No one has recalled me, so I am I'm the best fighter in the world. You tell me.
Because you retired?
But have I ever been beat?
What happens is you inform Ring Magazine.
Well, once again, I already forgot what I'm talking. Talking to Brian Kenny. A guy who's never laced up gloves a day in his life. We don't know nothing about boxing.
Right.
Marketing and all sorts of other merchandising through WIA, Warner Electric Atlantic, and other record labels. You know this already. Area code 702. Good afternoon. Is Jussie Smollett the new Tupac?
No.
Okay. How are you?
How are you?
Good. So why do you say no?
Because we don't own the one Tupac, and the common day, everybody want to compare themselves to somebody. Be yourself. Tupac.
Leading to towering income inequality, the tax data do not support that conclusion.
Well, the irony is that the places in this country, whether it's a state or cities that have the highest taxes and most regulations, have the widest income inequality gaps, right? They have the worst Gini coefficient ratings out there. So if you want to talk about data, the data would actually support the notion that when you put in too many taxes, you actually hurt the poor more than the rich. But I will say, I think there's an element to this, and it was sort of alluded there just moments ago. ALC put out a tweet to Dan Crenshaw saying the average NFL salary player is making $2.1 million, and they would never experience a 70% tax rate. But it's the owners who refuse to hire Kaepernick. They would. There's also another element to this, and it doesn't get said in public, but there's a racial element to this. And where a lot of people are saying, yeah, even Howard Schultz has an amazing story, but could a black kid from the projects have followed in his footsteps and gotten the breaks that he got in this sort of country? So they don't talk about it on the surface, but when you start to bring the social justice stuff in there, like this line, the owners who refuse to hire Kaepernick would, though. And that's where the Democratic Party itself is starting to implode. We saw the events over the weekend. They're having some real serious issues, with politics based on race, coupled with these ideas that somehow you can use taxes, not as an economic tool, really, to be honest with you, what they're really trying to use tax policy as a social justice tool to rewrite the wrongs of yesteryear. It's a punitive action. It's not a pro-economic action.
Carol Markowitz writes a piece in FoxNews.com, and I want to read you the headline. Ocasio-Cortez and Warren have decided, other 2020 Dems have decided, wealth is just evil, and your money belongs to them. And goes on to write, Ocasio-Cortez, watch out, America. Democrats, class warfare is back with a vengeance. Your money belongs to them to redistribute as they see fit. When did it become a crime to get rich in America?
Well, this is, I wouldn't say it's back. I like the part with the vengeance. It never went away from the Democratic platform. President Obama ran on this sort of a platform, but this is put it on steroids, let's face it. And, it's unfortunate because someone's going to offer Alexandria Ocasio $5 million, $10 million in the next year to write a book. And she's going to say, okay, right? Someone offered President Obama $45 million to write a book. He said, I'll take the money. So, you know, it's so interesting when they have these opportunities. Elizabeth Warren ain't poor. Bernie Sanders with 3 houses ain't poor, right? So some of the people who've railed against this the most have actually benefited the most from a capitalistic society.
Well, to bring this back to that phone call with the UK labor leader that Ocasio-Cortez had with him, he came off that call and said, let's build a movement across borders to take on the billionaires, polluters, and migrant invaders and support a happier, freer, and cleaner planet.
There is a movement across borders right now. It's an anti-establishment, anti-elitist movement, and it's been very successful. They just elected someone in Brazil, they elected someone in America, they elected in Italy, they just had Brexit. There is a movement. He would like to hijack that movement, but that movement is not for illegal immigration. That movement is not for high taxes for the sake of high taxes. That movement is not to sort of beat people up in the name of social justice. That movement is about removing the elites who have shackled all people of all colors, and only a handful of elites on all sides of the planet. The elites, whether in this country, Democrat or Republican, have benefited mightily while the masses haven't. Well, guess what? That is beginning to change.
Might as well finish with Big Board. What's the market doing today?
No flash today.
What happened? What's going on? Starting out?
Well, it's anticlimactic right now. We had a great week. We've had a great year. We had an amazing jobs report. And I do want to bring up, I think it's the 4th month in a row where non-supervisory workers' wages grew faster than their supervisors. So the organic movement that you want, regular folks making more money, is already happening in this country.
Expect the State of the Union tomorrow night. The president's probably going to make that case.
You don't think it's traders calling out sick because it was a Super Bowl?
It is white volume, there's no doubt about that. But it's always anticlimactic, the session after the jobs report.
Got it. All right. All good information. Charles
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Paul Manafort rejecting claims by Robert Mueller that he lied after signing his plea deal. He is in court today. We're going to have the latest on that.
Plus, a courtroom battle underway between lawyers for Paul Manafort and special counsel Robert Mueller, as a judge weighs claims that Manafort lied to federal agents after signing his plea deal. Our chief intelligence correspondent Catherine Herridge live in Washington with the latest on that. Catherine?
Thanks, John, and good morning. Today, a sealed hearing, which is not open to the public, is scheduled for Manafort's legal team and special counsel attorneys. They are expected to clash over whether the president's former campaign chairman lied repeatedly to investigators and violated his plea agreement. A short time ago here in Washington, Manafort's legal team, including lead attorney Kevin Downing, arrived at the district court. There are 5 main areas of disagreement outlined in heavily redacted court filings. They include alleged contact with the White House by Manafort, a wire transfer, and witness tampering. In his pre-Super Bowl interview, President Trump was non-committal about making the special counsel report public. Mr. Trump pointed to the congressional testimony of his nominee to lead the Justice Department, William Barr, who told lawmakers that under the regulations, the report is confidential and submitted to the Attorney General. That's the one who decides how much is revealed publicly and sent to Congress.
Coming up to the
What do you want them to do?
Even the Mueller report said it had nothing to do with the campaign. When you look at some of the people and the events, it had nothing to do.
You wouldn't have a problem if it became public.
Excuse me. That's up to the Attorney General. I don't know. It depends. I have no idea what it's going to say.
In a separate development, Fox News has confirmed new details of recent congressional closed-door testimony. The Justice Department official Bruce Orr announced that Special Counsel Lead Attorney Andrew Weissman were in contact 4 months before the presidential election over the anti-Trump dossier. Orr testified that he met with Weissman in August of 2016 to share information from the former British spy Christopher Steele and specific information related to Russian election interference. This date is important because it significantly moves up the timeline, with Orr and other FBI and Justice Department officials going outside standard operating procedures in an investigation to share the information, John.
All right, Catherine Herridge, our chief intelligence correspondent. Catherine, thanks.
You're welcome.
The drug cartels, in many respects, and the human trafficking, they work together. They're the same group, basically. They're controlling segments of our border. They can determine who's coming in. They'll send in a group of people to overwhelm the border patrol so they can bring in their drugs and their human trafficking and other portions of the border.
Well, that was Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. He joined us earlier on America's Newsroom as the Pentagon announces plans to send more troops down to our southern border. Lending additional support, another migrant caravan heads north through Mexico. Ohio Congressman Mike Turner is a Republican on the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee and joins us now. Congressman, great to have you in studio this morning. All right, so this brings the total number of troops supporting the border mission to over 4,300. Is this necessary and needed?
And just last week, the Armed Services Committee had a hearing where Undersecretary Root from the Department of Defense testified that the border continues to be open. There are areas where people can enter the United States unimpeded, and as you said, with caravans that are headed this way, this is a very dangerous situation to continue. The United States has to take action, and certainly as we look to try to put additional troops on the border, we're looking for them to have an impact. But Admiral Gilday and Secretary Root both testified that even though they're having an impact, they're certainly not stopping the flow.
A lot of Democrats think there is no need for more wall or a bigger barrier. Henry Cuellar out of Texas is one of them. Your counterpart is a Democrat. I want you to hear what he had to say.
I don't believe in the wall. I think the wall is a 14th century solution. The way the president is saying, the president is looking at a false premise. He thinks that the only way you secure the border is by having a wall. That is a false premise. There's other ways of securing the border.
So if you could secure the border without a wall, why not do that?
Well, because they don't really mean it. This is really not an issue of wall or no wall. It's open or closed border. In this instance, the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, are pursuing an open border policy. They want the border to be open. They're going to have to answer for that, but they changed the topic to say it's not open or close the border, it's a wall. Well, now it's really the issue of, are we going to have sovereign control of our border or are we not? Now, certainly a border wall works. It impedes entry into the United States. There is no magic technology that can be applied to provide a barrier to stop people who are entering the United States illegally.
Based on what I'm hearing from you right now, it sounds like another shutdown could be on the way.
I think when Chuck Schumer in December decided to block the bills that would have kept the government open and that would have funded closing the border and would have funded the president's wall and barriers at the border, I think he did not realize he was going to put himself in the situation he has with Nancy Pelosi saying the wall is immoral and showing her inflexibility. And in this, Chuck Schumer in December could have made any deal that he wanted, but now he's stuck with Nancy Pelosi holding the gavel and saying we're not going to allow a wall. And I don't, until she decides to budge, this is quite stalemate.
Tomorrow night's going to be pretty interesting. That visual of Nancy Pelosi sitting by the president as he delivers his State of the Union address. Obviously, this is going to be a big topic.
Well, the president means close the border, and Nancy Pelosi means leave it open. And the fact that she wants to continue this stalemate to try to not fund border security is in furtherance of her goal.
Very interesting. Meanwhile, the president over the weekend saying that he wants to watch Iran for this reason.
I want to be able to watch Iran. All I want to do is be able to watch. We have an unbelievable and expensive military base built in Iraq. It's perfectly situated for looking at all over different parts of the troubled Middle East. Rather than pulling up, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, we're going to keep watching and we're going to keep seeing. And if there's trouble, if somebody's looking to do nuclear weapons or other things, we're going to know it before they do.
Could this undercut some of those negotiations that are ongoing, the president's words here?
No, I think what's important here, and this has been part of the statements that even throughout the Obama administration that have been very clear about our presence in Iraq. It's a counterbalance to Iran. Their malign activities in Iraq, in Syria, with Hezbollah, in Lebanon, and in attempting to threaten Israel is certainly destabilizing to the area. It's one of the points that the Obama administration and the Trump administration have both been made, and I think it's certainly one that's going to continue to be a threat. We saw Iran just Saturday launch a new missile technology that they have been developing that now allows them to penetrate further into Europe and further into Israel. Clearly, their malign activities, and we all need.
So the president also says he wants to pull troops out of Syria. If you want to keep a thumb on Iran, you can do it from Syria as well, can you not?
Well, as you know, President Obama went into Syria for the purposes of countering ISIS and dismantling ISIS. There is not currently a mandate for addressing the presence of Russia or Iran in Syria. However, it does have effects overall on both how ISIS operates and the destabilization of Iraq and the stability of Iraq, their ability to control their own territory. So in that, I think the president has rightly identified that is an issue that as we have troops in Iraq that we need to be cognizant of.
I wanted to ask you about this, and I'm going to quote the New York Times this morning, and they're talking about in order to maintain a military mission in Syria, despite the president's order to withdraw troops there, that there's this plan that's gaining momentum within the Pentagon to use small teams of special operations forces to strike the Islamic State. Can you add anything to that?
Well, our goal has to be to counter ISIS and to ensure that they do not regain territory that they've lost, and that they be eliminated from the areas of Syria and from Iraq. We're going to do that in a number of ways. It'll include special forces. It'll include drones. It'll include air, and include our operations from Iraq itself. Those will certainly continue, and those are incredibly important, not only to the safety of Iraq and Israel, but also to the United States.
Very interesting. Congressman, appreciate your time this morning, and nice to have you here.
Thanks. Well, the list of Democrats running in the 2020 presidential race is getting longer by the day, but several potential candidates are still holding out, hesitating to declare. So is biding their time a mistake? Nothing like it's going to be a packed field in 2020. Remember the 18 Republicans on the stage? 6 Democrats officially launching their presidential campaigns already. Several others will be declaring very soon. Meanwhile, another round of high-profile potential candidates are kind of sitting in the wings, waiting it out. Is this wait-and-see strategy the right move? Here's a headline from Politico. 2020 Democratic holdouts wait for Harris, Warren to trip. Several potential candidates are adopting a white knight strategy, betting that the lost time doesn't matter as much in this political environment. Who better to talk about this than our A-team? They are back. Steve Hilton, Chris Steyerwalt, and Marianne Marsh.
How was that green room conversation, by the way?
Oh, we got it all sorted out. We figured everything out. We can't tell you how it turns out yet because we want you to keep watching, but we know who's going to win.
All right, so how does 2020 go?
I think that when it comes, there will be 2,000 people probably who file candidacy papers. No, seriously, it costs $300 and some odd to file to run for president of the United States. There will be lots and lots of people who do. No offense to mayors of medium-sized cities in Indiana. No offense to unusual members of Congress from Hawaii. No offense to former congressmen from Maryland. A lot of people are going to run. There are tiers here. And we have a clear tier where we're talking about Kamala Harris, where we're talking about Cory Booker, we're talking about Elizabeth Warren, we're talking about Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden if he wants to. But there's a caste system at work here.
What about a congressman from Texas named Beto O'Rourke? Does he have a chance?
He's fading by the minute. I mean, when you're lightning in a bottle, you need to strike. And he's like on his Don Quixote tour right now. I don't know where it is. But if you're not in this race by now, it is too late. You're late already.
Oh.
Here's why. 1 year from now, the Iowa caucuses are happening. In the meantime, California's already started their early voting. New Hampshire comes right after that. South Carolina, Nevada after that. You have to look at it and say, would you ever run for the United States Senate or governor or even Congress with a year to go and just get in the race unless it was a special election? No, you would not. You need to be in now because you're not meeting the activists, you're not lining up support, you're not lining up the kind of help and workers you need, strategists and campaign workers and all that. You are late to the dance, and if you're Joe Biden, you're really late because you think because you have great polling numbers and all that now, you can walk right in and be the white knight you talked about earlier. Your best day is the day until you announce, and then it's all downhill from there.
Meanwhile, in that interview over the weekend with the president, he talked about the only path to victory for the Democrats is this.
The only way they can win, because they can't win the election, is to bring out the artificial way of impeachment. And the problem is you can't impeach somebody for doing the best job of any president in the history of our country for the first 2 years. And people have seen and people have watched what we've done.
Well, so that's the president's take.
Well, I think he's right to say that the centerpiece of the Democratic campaign will be anti-Trump. That's what it's all going to be about. That's what the party's looking for. By the way, I'm not sure we're allowed to say white knight. Is that acceptable in today's Democratic Party? I think it's white knight. You're really careful about that. But the centerpiece, as I say, will be who is the candidate who is best equipped to aggressively, viciously take on Donald Trump. They hate the president so much. That's what they want to see.
Wait. I don't know that that's so. Cory Booker did something very boring, which is say I'm running as the black candidate in this race, which is something that black candidates like Barack Obama avoided, right? They did not want to be explicitly that way. So Booker did something that was sort of out of date. But he then did something quite interesting, which he said, I love Donald Trump, I love everybody, and we've got to do this. There is a knowledge, the same thing that fueled Beto O'Rourke.
Would it be nice to see a bit of that Cory Booker in the cabinet here?
Well, there's that. But what Beto O'Rourke was tapping into, what other Democrats have successfully tapped into, is there is a yearning in this country for normalcy and unity to stop so that it isn't what you described. Because people are sick of it from both parties and across the spectrum. And Democrats are looking at somebody like Howard Schultz and saying, we could screw around and lose this thing if we act like a bunch of jerks.
I think there's something a little different here, which is in every campaign, people are looking for the authentic candidate. So people have to be themselves. And I think the great thing about this election in particular is women, candidates of colors, and others are running as themselves. For years, whether you're Barack Obama or a woman candidate, you can't be too much like a woman. You can't lean on your gender, Hillary Clinton. You can't lean on the fact you're African American, Barack Obama. But now everybody's being who they truly are, and that's the best thing for America.
Marianne, Steve, Chris, you got to say goodbye. Thank you. Good discussion.
Making history in Atlanta, the highs, the lows, and what people are talking about in their wake of yet another Patriots victory. Congratulations, Marianne. Thank you. 24/7 sports reporter joins us now. Jared, I wish I was still in one game. You saw the cover of the New York Post this morning yet, buddy? Bored.
Yeah, it was super boring. It was the Super Bowl. It took 53 minutes of game time before we got our first touchdown. It turned out to be the lowest scoring Super Bowl ever. If somebody would have said that the Patriots would have scored 13 points and not only won, but their most lopsided Super Bowl victory ever, you would have said, wait, what? Rob Gronkowski, the Patriots, says it wasn't beautiful, but we just grinded out and kept grinding. Super Bowl ratings, their lowest in 10 years. 68% of televisions in the United States were still tuned into the game, but a 5% drop from last year. Tom Brady becomes the first to win 6 Super Bowls. Amazing accomplishment by this team. They're up there with the great sports dynasties. This is their 3rd title in 5 years. And how about before the game? Gladys Knight, 74 years old, the Empress of Soul. She killed it on the national anthem. Some of the largest cheers of the night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The crowd loved it. All class, no controversy, nothing political, just a beautiful song from the Atlanta legend. A far contrast to what we saw at halftime. Adam Levine made a lot of news because he kept ripping his clothes off, took his shirt off. But boy, what a bore. Honestly, after 3 minutes, I walked away.
All right, well, Jared Max, it's over now, and the Patriots are the winners. Thank you very much, Jared.
So, are Democrats pushing too far left? Michael Moore says they need to accept the freshman congresswoman from the Bronx.
Fox News alert now. Virginia's Democratic governor is resisting growing pressure to step down over a racist yearbook photograph. Some even bring up the idea of impeachment. We go outnumbered overtime now. I'm Harris Faulkner. Governor Ralph Nader meeting with his top administration officials today. After several hours, days of shifting explanations over a racist photo that appeared in his 1984 medical school yearbook, Northam claims he was not in that picture, despite previously apologizing for appearing in that picture.
Well, I'm deeply sorry. I cannot change the decisions I made, nor can I undo the harm my behavior caused then and today. But I accept responsibility for my past actions. I finally had a chance to sit down and look at the photograph in detail. It is definitely not me. I can tell by looking at it.
Garrett Tenney is live for us in Richmond, Virginia with the latest. Garrett?
Well, Harris, in the face of growing pressure for him to resign, Governor Ralph Northam is trying to decide if he can continue to serve as governor effectively. A source familiar with the situation tells us that last night he met with senior staffers to discuss his current situation, what his options are going forward, and what they could do. Almost across the board, Democrats say that he needs to step aside both for the state and the party. Party leaders, they are concerned if he doesn't resign, the controversy could hang over the 2020 elections, impacting fundraising and voter turnout in a key swing state. Now, if Northam does decide to stick it out and remain in office, it's not clear what steps Democrats can take to do to change that. On Sunday, though, the chairman of Virginia's Legislative Black Caucus did not rule out the possibility of seeking impeachment.
I hate to even have that discussion right now. I encourage the governor to step aside so he can start the hearing process. I'm not at the point where I want to publicly have a conversation about it.
Legal scholars say there are a lot of questions, though, as to whether or not a racist picture from 35 years ago amounts to an impeachable offense. Waiting in the wings is the man who will replace him, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, and today he is dealing with a bit of a controversy of his own, firing back against a report overnight alleging that a woman claims he sexually assaulted her 15 years ago. Early this morning, his office released a statement saying, in part, he has never assaulted anyone, ever, in any way, shape, or form. Only now, at a time of intense media attention surrounding Virginia politics, has this false claim been raised again. That statement also said Fairfax will pursue legal action against those behind the allegations. Today, it's been business as usual for him, though. He is presiding in the Senate as they go through a number of bills, and we are told that he has not spoken with the governor or heard from the governor since Saturday. And like the rest of us, he's waiting to find out what the governor will do going forward. Harris?
Gary Kenny, thank you very much. Meanwhile, President Trump is criticizing Governor Nation for his response to this controversy. For more, I'm joined by Counselor to the President of the United States, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, thank you for being with me. First, I just want to kind of go over what the President has said about this. I want to pop up a tweet from him, if we may be able to do that for everybody on the screen. Democrat Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia just stated, "I believe that I am not either of the people in that photo." This was 24 hours after apologizing for appearing in the picture and after making the most horrible statement on super late-term abortion. Unforgivable exclamation points. Unforgivable from the President. What is the latest from the White House now?
Hi, Harris. So the statement by the President actually reflects the point of view of many Americans today on two major issues that involved Virginia's sitting governor, Democrat Ralph Northam. So last week he apologized for his past and hoping to make amends, and then 24 hours later changed course and said, by the way, I'm not apologizing because it didn't involve me and I'm not in the picture. This is exactly what people hate about politicians, that they're craven, they'll say anything, do anything that people put in front of them, their consultants, their focus group results say to say, and that they'll cling to power for no reason other than to keep that power. Every major Democrat, including those scared that Ralph Northam would be the Democratic sitting governor in Virginia when they run in 2020, which already started, they've called for him to resign. It's not clear whether they're calling for him to resign because, like the rest of us, are so outraged at these photos and his possible involvement in them, his stated involvement in them, or that they're worried about his liability as a sitting governor in Virginia. But the President said something else at the end of his tweet, which had really raised the ire of many Americans and got very little coverage by the mainstream media, who, of course, is pretty much pro-abortion themselves. Just look at their coverage and their lack of coverage. It's that this same governor, earlier in the week, said when an infant, used that word infant, didn't say uterine material, didn't say polyglot, didn't say some mushy-looking thing on the sonogram screen, said infant. When the infant is delivered, that's a baby. When the infant is delivered, they'll keep them, quote, comfortable, and then have the physician and the mother discuss what's next. We are not a country that is going to allow for legal infanticides as long as Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And very few people picked up on that. The mainstream media all but ignored it. And it wasn't until this latest controversy that they came forward and said he should resign. It's up to the Democrats what they do with their Democrat governor who's embroiled in this racist controversy.
It's interesting that you put it that way. We're hearing from the Virginia State House Speaker, who's saying today that he's calling on Governor Northam to resign. A couple of just items there. You say most of the mainstream media being pro-abortion. I'm sure some of them would definitely take exception to that as they do
Well,
their
they're
jobs.
going to say they're pro-choice, but are they for this or against this? You can't be pro-choice and no longer own and claim these late-term abortions that are now being proposed as law in New York, in Virginia, and in 4 other states.
I completely understand that is within the realm of politics, perhaps, but you took a shot at the mainstream media, so I wanted to say that not everybody has political views that they would share on this to begin with, and would share them in common. I want to move on and just ask you.
I have to say this. Why do they call it women's issues then? Why do we always have to hear that such and such politician is bad or unquote women's issues? Don't they really mean abortion? Because I've been in politics for 30 years and I've never not a single time heard the phrase men's issues. Because people believe male voters can handle all the issues.
All right, let's move on. So that's an interesting question. Could be family issues. Let's change gears now. I know the president hinted yesterday in his Super Bowl interview that there were going to be some surprises, if you will, and anticipation of the State of the Union tomorrow about the border wall discussion. Can you talk with me about what's coming?
Well, he certainly will address the border wall, but also national security, border security, immigration overall. This is an address to the nation, but he's in the chamber in front of the Congress that has failed to do its job for any number of years, if not decades, on getting us an immigration plan in this country that, of course, secures our southern border, but also tackles the chain migration, the visa lottery system, TPS, all these things that this president, the dreamers, this president has put forward. But most importantly, in the State of the Union, the president is calling for an end to sort of resistance and retribution politics and calling for cooperation and compromise. He really wants to unify the nation as its commander-in-chief and its president, the leader of the nation, not the leader of a political party. And he's really using very specific examples of how Congress and he have done this already and how he'd like to have us do it in the near future as well.
All right, real quickly, because there's been all this discussion about the semantics. Is it a border barrier? The president has gone back and forth. Maybe I won't call it a wall. Is he going to call it a wall in the State of the Union address tomorrow night?
Well, I'll leave that to him. I'm not going to speak specifically about the address, which I have seen and I think is fantastic in his voice.
I think you should call it a wall based on...
I think it doesn't matter, and here's why. I said probably 5 weeks ago on 2 Sunday shows, including your own network, that it's a silly semantics argument. Now lots of people are saying that, meaning we need a physical barrier. He has told the leadership in the Democratic Party here in the White House in the Situation Room, call it whatever you want. Call it steel slats, call it a barrier. Call it secure fences, Harris. Where did I get that idea?
From legislation that already existed under Democrats.
That's right. Call it what you want. Call it a wall. Call it a physical barrier. But it must do the following. The description of it and its certitude is more important than what you call it. It must be a physical barrier that you can't crawl under, climb over, drive through, or walk around. We need to impede and deter these drugs, this human trafficking, and people coming over here and risking these small children now.
One more topic to get with you on.
Risking their health. 32 million Americans have it. We welcome it.
All right, so we don't know whether or not he'll call it a wall, but as you said, you could call it, and I tried to interject there with this information, you could call it what they called it in the last piece of legislation, which was under Democrats. They have more than 600 miles of what you're talking about already. Let's talk foreign policy, and the president
We
saying...
call it a wall, by the way, but they can call it if they want to.
Now we know. Okay, so we will call it a wall.
I'm just saying the State of the Union, I'm just saying he does say that.
Right, okay, all right.
The reason he said last week, call a wall is because they're all dancing around it. Just pass the legislation.
I hear you.
His desk.
I hear you. All right, so just this weekend, the president again cast some doubt on his intelligence chief's reports. And you've got a look coming up with a second summit with North Korea. How is it exactly that you go into a second summit with a North Korean dictator when you distrust the intelligence, some of it, assessment?
He doesn't distrust his intelligence team. He said that when he disagrees, he lets that be known, and he let it be known very publicly recently. But let's not conflate the two. The second meeting with Chairman Kim is to move forward on the president's stated goal complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which is everybody's business. We're already ahead of the game vis-a-vis North Korea because the 3 American detainees were returned. The remains of our brave soldiers who were lost who died and whose remains were in North Korea for almost 70 years, being returned to the Vice President's care in Hawaii last year. Certainly, I'm trying to talk to Chairman King about the nuclearization, but look, nothing's changed on the sanctions. The sanctions remain in place while these conversations continue.
Kelly, does the president trust what his intel chiefs are saying about North Korea as you head into the second summit?
So the president is listening to his intelligence team, and he's also listening to the reports that he has seen in the past and his previous conversations. He believes that we can achieve, not that we have, and not even that we're super close, but that we can achieve complete denuclearization. He has to at least try. We just started year 3 of his administration. Here's a president who's trying to make good on what his predecessor, President Obama, told him the day after he was elected would be his most vexing problem, quote, North Korea. Well, why is that? Because it wasn't solved, it wasn't ameliorated in those 8 years. And this is also a president who's taken us out of the Iran nuclear deal for much the same reason. He doesn't want nuclear-capable actors around the globe who have malicious intent with some of these nuclear capabilities.
I understand all of those points, and some among the American public are indicating and have in surveys that it makes them a little uneasy when the president and the intel chiefs may not be on the same page. But what you're saying is it isn't that he isn't listening to them. He's going to figure out what he believes in what they're saying and what the facts support.
Correct. And just quickly, the day that all of that came out, the day after they testified, they were here. I saw them at the White House. They were here to deliver their presidential daily briefing and have been here since. So I don't want the gossipy part to overstep and overtake.
For the interpretation of what's
that's right.
I got it. Kellyanne Conway, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you surprised me when you said the president is always going to call it a wall. Thank you very much.
Meaning he will always call it a wall. They can call it what they want. He's also said steel slap barriers. We've been round and round this game for a while. He's put his proposal on the table. The whole world was there to see it.
The deadline is February 15th.
We're yet to get this conference. We need border security. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kellyanne. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for all-day special coverage of the president's State of the Union address right here on Fox News Channel. And of course, we will bring you the speech live along with the Democratic response which follows. Said to answer allegations that he broke a plea agreement with special counsel Robert Mueller's team, Catherine Herridge, with the latest in the report. Plus, President Trump refusing to commit releasing the Mueller report publicly and again taking aim at the investigation. Former U.S. Attorney Andy McCarthy will be with me. Stay close.
The Russia thing is a hoax. I have been tougher on Russia than any president, maybe ever, but than any president. I think it's a terrible thing that's happened to this country because this investigation is a witch hunt. It's a terrible witch hunt, and it's a disgrace.
Trump 2016 campaign chairman Paul Manafort are back in court today for a sealed hearing. Manafort is accused of breaching a plea agreement with the special counsel Robert Mueller's team. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here with more on the latest. Catherine?
Well, thanks, Harrison. Good afternoon. Today's hearing is behind closed doors at the district court here in Washington, D.C. The core issue is whether Paul Manafort lied repeatedly to special counsel investigators violating his plea agreement. Short time ago, Manafort's legal team, including lead attorney Kevin Downing, arrived at the district court in Washington. There are 5 main areas of disagreement outlined in the heavily redacted court filings. They include alleged contact with the White House, wire fraud transfer, and witness tampering. Manafort's legal team says it's overreach by the special counsel. In his pre-Super Bowl interview, President Trump was non-committal about making the special counsel report public. Mr. Trump pointed to the congressional testimony of his nominee to lead the Justice Department, William Barr, who told lawmakers recently that under the regulations, the report is confidential and submitted to the Attorney General, who will then decide how much is revealed publicly and then sent to Congress.
Totally up to the what do you want them to do? Even the Mueller report said it had nothing to do with the campaign. When you look at some of the people and the events, it had nothing to do.
You wouldn't have a problem if it became public.
Excuse me. It's up to the Attorney General. I don't know. It depends. I have no idea what it's going to say.
In a separate development, Fox News confirms new details about the House Russia investigation and also recent congressional testimony behind closed doors that shows Justice Department official Bruce Orr and now special counsel lead prosecutor Andrew Weissman were in contact over the anti-Trump dossier 4 months before the presidential election. According to the Orr transcript, they met in August of 2016. Question: what was the purpose of the meeting? Or, I think the criminal division officials also wanted to make sure that the criminal and national security parts of the FBI were talking or communicating. Question: there was a desire to have the people with the right portfolios in the room on the same page to have the same information. Or, I believe that's yes. This is significant because it moves up the timeline with Orr and other FBI Justice Department officials going around standard investigative procedures in the handling of the dossier. Remember, this is also several months before they used it in part to secure the surveillance warrant for Trump campaign aide Carter Page Harris.
Wow, that's an interesting detail. I wrote it down. Catherine Harris, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, President Trump this weekend criticized the Mueller investigation and said the investigation has not implicated his campaign. The president also did not reject the possibility that he might pardon former associate Roger Stone.
First of all, Roger Stone didn't work on the campaign, except way at the beginning, long before we're talking about. Roger is somebody that I've always liked, but a lot of people like Roger. Some people probably don't like Roger, but Roger Stone's somebody I've always liked. I mean, Roger's a character. But Roger was not, I don't know if you know this or not, Roger wasn't on my campaign, except way at the beginning.
Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Amy McCarthy touching on that same thing in a new piece, writing, quote, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's indictment of Roger Stone may be the most peculiar document to emerge from the Trump-Russia collusion saga. It is an instant classic in the Mueller genre. Lots of heavy breathing, then sputtering anti-climax. Here now is Fox News contributor Anthony McCarthy. Why write it that way?
Well, because, Harris, if you look at the document, it goes on for 20 pages of very intriguing narrative about Russian counterintelligence operations, the sharing, the not only hacking of these emails, but the secret transmission of them to WikiLeaks, and you have a lot of Trump people who are around WikiLeaks, basically giddy over the prospect of getting all these emails out and possibly destroying Clinton's campaign. And then you get to the end, and what you have are 7 process crimes against somebody who really wasn't in the campaign, which charge him with things like claiming that all of his conversations with some guy were by telephone, when in fact most of them were by text.
Well, now, Andy, when you say that he really, when you say he wasn't really in the campaign, even the president said he was in the campaign in the very beginning.
Well, that's why I said really, as the president said.
But he was.
At the beginning of the campaign in 2015, he was attached to the campaign. At the critical moments of what is the collusion plot, he was not in the campaign, and that's the period that's relevant.
So when you look at the president leaving the door open for a pardon, and you and I have talked about this before, when you pardon and when you don't. When do you pardon and when don't you?
Well, you can pardon legally at any time. You don't have to wait for somebody to be charged. All you have to do is. To me, I don't think so. I think he should let the system play itself out, and he can decide later on whether to pardon or not. I'm not here to excuse Stone for lying to Congress, which it looks, some of these counts look like they're very strong. But I just think that to hype this as if it were corroboration of the collusion narrative is to be living in a fantasy land.
When you say hype, are there other elements of the investigation that you feel are being hyped? I know a lot has been made of the door knock raid that was carried out pre-dawn on Roger Stone and his wife, his home. And there have been other instances that were very public with Michael Cohen. What's your thought on that?
Well, I think, Harris, that what you see over the course of the investigation is that 2 things happen. Number one, because the collusion narrative, especially as it was originally articulated, was kind of sold as the crime of the century, people who are charged with comparatively trifling crimes
are treated as if they were major criminals. And I'm thinking not just of what happened with Stone, where you had, dozens of agents and tactical teams and all that descend on his home, and then he toodles out of the courtroom about 3 or 4 hours later on a signature, because the government didn't even seek to have him held without bail. Kind of strange to do for...
I have heard you say, though, among all of those, you call them process crimes, that the witness tampering is one that is very serious, and that is something that we have seen with this particular person, Roger Stone, and potentially others. We don't know. We don't know everything that Mueller has. Last quick word.
Yeah, well, witness tampering is a serious crime. On the other hand, there's all kinds of witness tampering. There's some witness tampering that involves murder plots, and there's other witness tampering that involves, on the other end of the spectrum, minor efforts to influence somebody's testimony. I think Stone's is probably, closer to the minor than the major, but it's not to say it's unserious.
All right. Andy McCarthy, always great to have you on the program with your expertise. Thank you.
Thanks, Harris.
The Senate expected to vote on an amendment that shows its disapproval of President Trump's order to withdraw troops from the Middle East. A live report from Capitol Hill next. And we will have the latest on the disappearance of missing Kentucky mom Savannah Spurlock, where she was last seen. With whom she was. Details next. If you're a veteran, the Senate is expected to vote on an amendment from Majority Leader Mitch McConnell expressing displeasure with President Trump's order to withdraw from parts of the Middle East. That, according to a Senate GOP leadership aide. This comes after the president said the United States is not abandoning the region, despite his plans to bring some U.S. troops home. Mike Emanuel, live on Capitol Hill on the story. Mike?
Harris, good afternoon. This amendment would not tie the hands of the commander-in-chief, but it would potentially signal that Senate Republicans have serious concerns about leaving our allies like the Kurds in Syria.
If we just abandon them to the mercies, and let's say, I use that term loosely, of Russia and Iran and possibly Turkey, it would just be unconscionable. So again, I think the Republican senators are saying very strong signals to the president. We don't want to see that happen. I hope he is listening.
The commander-in-chief, President Trump, is also talking about his Syria and Afghanistan policy, saying his plans should not be a surprise.
If you look at Afghanistan, we're going in very soon, we'll be going into our 19th year, spending $50 billion a year. Now, if you go back and look at any of my campaign speeches or rallies, I talked about it all the time.
You did. You've been talking about it. And
the most vocal backer of President Trump's plans in Afghanistan and Syria, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul.
I support the president on this. I think to call it a precipitous withdrawal after 17 years is ludicrous. I mean, we've been there 17 years. We need to learn as a country how to declare victory. I think the president is steadfast that we need to do things differently. The foreign policy swamp that says we should stay forever in Afghanistan, that they're wrong.
The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has also spoken about what he's trying to do with this amendment.
Amendment would acknowledge the claims by Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and their affiliates in Syria and Afghanistan continue to pose a serious threat to us here at home. It would recognize the danger of a precipitous withdrawal from either conflict.
McConnell says in both Syria and Afghanistan, local fighters are doing much of the heavy lifting at this stage, but American leadership, in his view, is essential. Harris?
Mike Emanuel, thank you very much. I'm going to bring in Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, a member of the House Armed Services Committee and retired Green Beret commander. Great to see you today. Thank you for being with me. Let me start with why some feel it's necessary in a bipartisan manner, I might add, to express this to the president. Can't they just have a conversation with the president? You sit on a committee that might have a similar conversation.
Well, I think you will see that conversation coming from our committee. Look, Harris, I want to be clear. The president and the administration deserve a lot of credit for taking the handcuffs off our troops, for unleashing them to destroy ISIS as a caliphate, particularly in Syria and Iraq. But ISIS is not completely defeated.
We have to keep our foot on their neck. We have to stay on offense, and staying on offense means we have some presence there. We're not talking hundreds of thousands of troops. We're talking about a very small footprint that can work with our allies on the ground and prevent attacks like we haven't. There's a reason we haven't had attacks in Orlando and San Bernardino and across Europe in the last couple of years. The president deserves credit for that, but we have to finish the job.
So I have to ask you, because when you say a small footprint, we already have a small footprint there. There are 2,000, and albeit tip of the spear special forces, some of the most talented people on the planet when it comes to protection and battle. At the same time, when you move a bulk of them over to Iraq, which is what the president is being told is possible, and also keep a counterterrorism presence that can quickly strike, I don't understand how that's much different. I mean, you're not man or woman, if you will, to really full capacity with 2,000 people anyway, are you?
Well, so a couple of things here. The predicate for this, and according to my colleague Senator Paul, is just bring the troops home. Too long, too expensive.
Yeah, but he's not in charge.
No, he's not, but I think he's having a lot of influence, unfortunately. We also have 25,000 troops still in Japan, been there 70 years. Yes. What does that cost? 30,000 in South Korea, tens of thousands in Europe, even some in Colombia and other places. The United States has to lead, and we've seen what happened when President Obama pulled out too soon. And if you're worried about unfortunately, our special operators and others who are being killed and wounded, who are sacrificing, having to fight our way back in, which is, to your point, what you'd have to do from Iraq. I think, frankly, people have been reading too many Tom Clancy novels. You have to be on the ground and you have to be present with our allies. You can't just parachute back and forth. It doesn't work that way.
I want to hear directly from the president on this, who talked yesterday about watching Iran and how this fits into that. Let's watch.
I want to be able to watch Iran. All I want to do is be able to watch. We have an unbelievable and expensive military base built in Iraq. It's perfectly situated for looking at all over different parts of the troubled Middle East. Rather than put up, and this is what a lot of people don't understand.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, Foreign Relations Committee, you yourself, House Armed Services, how do you all square this and also give the president what he wants?
Well, Iran made more gains across the Middle East under the Obama administration than they have in the last 1,000 years. They're building that land bridge through Syria to Lebanon. They've essentially taken over the Lebanese government, and they're threatening and they're building up against our ally in Israel. So on the one hand, the administration is upset with the intelligence community for kind of disagreeing on the danger of Iran, but on the other hand, it's okay to withdraw from Syria where Iran is most operative. That doesn't make sense to me. I think we need to stay forward, stay on offense. Look, Harris, I want to make this point. There is an underlying notion here that if we just let them handle it, they'll leave us alone. That is not the case. When America doesn't lead, bad things happen in that void, and either we can fight this in Damascus and Kabul, or we can fight this in Kansas City. One way or another, we've got to fight these wars.
There are factual supports for what you're saying, both past and present. The Pentagon, with its IG report today, says that ISIS will fold back in 6 to 12 months and limited territories and take them back over. A discussion on the Hill today, a vote coming. We'll cover the news as it happens. Congressman Waltz, thank you.
Thanks, Harris.
Jury deliberations are now underway in the trial of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The suspected Mexican drug lord is accused of numerous charges, including murder. Brian Ynsdks is live outside the U.S. District Court in Brooklyn, New York. That's about as less dramatic as we have ever put it, because it has had some twists and turns.
Hi, Harris. Yes, it has. Less than an hour ago, the jury was charged, and now deliberations can begin. Behind me, 7 women and 5 men will decide the fate of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, a man known as the world's most prolific drug trafficker. And if you have any doubts as to how important this verdict is for the United States government, just moments ago, the acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker was seen in court shaking hands with the prosecutors. This verdict could put an end to a saga that started some 2 years ago when Chapo was extradited from Mexico to the United States. Now, this morning started with some courtroom drama. El Chapo's lawyers arrived at court concerned that the jury was tainted by unsealed court documents released this weekend that show witnesses allege Chapo raped underage girls as young as 13. Now, this accusation was not brought up in the trial, Judge Kogan met with the jurors and asked if anyone had seen any of these reports over the weekend. Ultimately, none of the jurors were dismissed. El Chapo faces 10 counts. Most are drug trafficking related, but the most serious charge he faces is leading a criminal enterprise. And if found guilty of that, of leading the Sinaloa cartel, he'll be sentenced to a mandatory life in prison sentence. Now, the prosecution argues they have presented a, quote, avalanche of evidence against El Chapo. Some 56 witnesses, including 14 cooperating witnesses who worked or who knew Chapo personally. Videos of Chapo interrogating rivals have been shown. Wiretap phone conversations and personal text messages of Chapo drug dealing and ordering bribes and murders have also been shown in court. The defense argues that the government's 14 star witnesses are all liars, drug traffickers, drug kingpins, and murderers in their own right who simply cannot be trusted. Now, the defense attorney, Jeffrey Lichtman, pointed out contradictions in their testimony, saying that these witnesses are lying in the hopes that they'll receive, quote, get out of jail free cards. Harris, incredible court, we've seen just incredible testimony over the last 3 months, and the lawyers for El Chapo say that he remains optimistic. He has been smiling and focused in court. We shall see.
Brian Gaines, waiting the next chapter from you. Thank you very much as this news cooks. Fox News is also learning new details now in the case of a missing Kentucky mom, where she was last seen, and what that might mean for the investigation going forward. Stay put. Democrat Justin Fairfax at some point today, and we have. He's just spoken with reporters, and he said that Governor Nathan should do what he thinks is best for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And this has to do with the fire that the governor has come under over some racist photographs, or image, I should say, from 30 plus years ago. And so the governor had first apologized for being in those images and then said he's not sure that he's in them, but that he did appear in bigoted gear at another time. So this has gone on for days. By the way, the lieutenant governor says he has not spoken with Governor Northam in several days. And then a shift from Lieutenant Governor Fairfax. He then wanted to say that he is innocent. He denied all allegations of a sexual assault case that has surfaced against him after 15 years. So a couple of things there from the Democrat Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax of Virginia. As the story gains more facts, we will report them to you. Now this. New details on the disappearance of a 22-year-old Kentucky mom of 4. In a Fox News exclusive, we are learning that Savannah Spurlock was last seen being driven to a rural home by 3 men, one of whom she had met at a Lexington bar a month ago. Matt Finn is live following the story from the Midwest in Chicago. Matt?
Harris, for the first time, we are getting a better idea of what happened to this young mother after she was last seen at a Lexington bar. Police now tell Fox News that Savannah Spurlock ended up inside a rural home about 1 hour south. Savannah Spurlock was last seen on surveillance video leaving a Lexington pub around 2:30 a.m. with 3 men she met that night on January 4th. Those 3 men tell police they all ended up at a rural home in Garrett County, Kentucky, and that Savannah left the house on foot around 8:30 a.m. the next morning. Savannah's mother doesn't buy it, saying Savannah didn't have her purse, wallet, or coat on her and would have called someone before walking in an unknown area. Ellen Spurlock says her daughter Savannah always stays in touch and even FaceTimed her the night she went missing.
Seemed fine to me. She did not seem to be under any duress, or she seemed happy. I went back to sleep thinking, you know, she's going to be home later this morning. She promised me.
That woman, Ellen Spurlock, tells Fox News she now wonders if Savannah FaceTimed her that night to show her the faces of the people she was with. Ellen says Savannah only went out to bars every few months and was a responsible young mother of 4 children. Today, volunteer canine search teams are assisting police. They are searching the Kentucky River for clues. And tomorrow is Savannah Spurlock's 23rd birthday. Harris.
Matt Finn, thank you very much. Virginia's Democratic Governor Ralph Northam, whom I was just telling you about, is now the lieutenant governor of that state, weighing in on the controversy engulfing the governor over a racist yearbook photo. Can the governor of Virginia, Democrat governor, survive all of this, and how much of this is hurting the Democrat Party? The Power Panel will slide in as new details continue to surface.
Fairfax speaking moments ago to reporters. Governor Ralph Northam still refusing to resign over very controversial comments and photos. We'll tell you what Fairfax just said. Plus, the president plans, explains why he wants to keep troops in Iraq. And then Greg Gutfeld and I will talk about queso. Why? Find out on the Daily Briefing.
All right, let's get into it now. The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, just spoke moments ago. As this is breaking, I want to revisit what he said now. This is about the potential resignation of the governor of Virginia, a Democrat there who has made comments about late-term abortion in recent days, issued statement after statement, and then a racist photo showed up. He said he wasn't in that one. He was in another one, potentially, where he dressed up in blackface because of Michael Jackson. All of this coming to a head with many Democrats, including Virginia State House Speaker, calling for Northam to resign. And then the man on your left is the Lieutenant Governor, who conceivably could step up into that position. He's dealing with his own issues today as sexual assault allegations have surfaced after 15 years. Moments ago, he said on first count, he hasn't spoken with Governor Northam, doesn't know what is coming down the pike, but says that the governor should do what he thinks is best for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And on the second point, he is denying those sexual assault allegations against him. The Lieutenant Governor, Democrat, Justin Fairfax of Virginia, has just spoken moments ago, and we're going to get into it now. Ahead of that, we heard from the White House on all of this reaction, and here is Kellyanne Conway from my interview just earlier this hour.
This is exactly what people hate about politicians, that they're craven, they'll say anything, do anything that people put in front of them, their consultants, the focus group results say to say, and that they'll cling to power for no reason other than to keep that power.
Lisa Booth, Fox News contributor. Jamu Green, former candidate for DNC chair, Fox News contributor. Jamu, I come to you first.
Thanks, Harris. Well, I think after unified calls from Democrats up and down the state of Virginia, these calls were done very quickly, very forcibly for him to resign. Governor Northam is a man without a party. After his disastrous press conference, he has no credibility and no ability to lead. Now, I think it's interesting that this happened on Thursday.
Things that was going on.
Because
he was too educated and he spoke too much.
it's embedded in our culture.
And as far as the gay community, stay in your lane. Because no, he didn't speak about that when he was alive. And plus, he's dead. He should be able to rest in peace. So start comparing people to somebody you didn't even really know. Only the people that was born in that time knew who Tupac was.
I appreciate your call. And again, we're just trying to be objective here. How old are you?
From 38.
38. Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive. I'm 38 years old. Okay. And I ain't no damn dummy and I ain't no damn fool. He was out there.
Say you're right. I appreciate you calling in. So now, are you up to speed? Did you hear about Jesse saying I'm the gay Tupac? Did you see that, the video?
Yeah, I seen it. And I felt like it was a bunch of bullshit. For the simple fact, what Tupac got to be doing with what you got caught up doing and where you ended up at. Tupac ain't got nothing to do with that situation. So you ain't the new Tupac. Ain't nobody the new Tupac. Tupac is Tupac. And that's what he should be. Jesse Smoley or whatever, how you pronounce his name.
Smother.
For your own person.
I thank you for the call, darling. Thank you. Hold on a second. Let me find some more of these calls up. The correlation Jesse was trying to make was that he fought back. That's what he said in that video. I fought the fuck back. We're still waiting to see who he fought. If anybody. Was he fighting imaginary people? Now Bow Wow fought the fuck back. Bow Wow must have been giving somebody some good dick. I say that respectfully. And shit just went left. Have you seen the scratches on Bow Wow's face? Yeah. Bow Wow fought back. Who did Jesse fight, if anybody? Good afternoon to Smokescreen Entertainment. Thank you for the donation. This is Smokescreen from Toronto. Jussie went to Target and bought the David Carradine suicide kit and didn't follow up the instructions properly. Yeah, hey, thanks for the donation. We spoke about David Carradine, Kung Fu, when I was a kid back in the 70s, and that's how he died, some type of asphyxiation, sexual thing. But thank you for the donation. And also, Smokescreen Entertainment, salute to Toronto, huh? Tory Lanez caught a body with Don Q. Drizzy caught a body with Meek Mill. Toronto's winning right now. Gorilla Zoe, good afternoon, sir. He says, Jussie isn't the new Tupac, but he may be the new Mr. C. Okay, that's one shot. Mr. C is a homie of mine. I think we shot the Ynsdks a couple of months back. Good guy. And say what you want about Mr. C, but he's living his truth. He came out with it. Gotta respect it. Good afternoon to Bollock. Bollock sends a donation. Hand me the bag. Need to squeeze off on this empty Bati boy for the Ho Stole. What is that? Ho Stole. Gunshot Havana. Okay. Thank you for the donation. That sounds great. But in reality, there are transgender prostitutes in Jamaica in large numbers. Are you up to speed on that? And again, people of color, African Americans, get a bad rap for being homophobic. Don't even answer that question if somebody asks, "Are you homophobic?" Don't even give that any power. But thank you for the donation again. The Real Charmer says, "Star, don't blaspheme. Jussie ain't nowhere near Pac. I didn't even know who this motherfucker was before the story came out. He's a Trump hater. Go figure." Yeah, I don't think most of us knew about Jussie's music, but we're gonna know now. I think this will be the out that his PR team uses, or the LGBT. This is what they will use. Oh, he fought back, just like Tupac. Go back to the phone lines. Good afternoon, area code. Hit that too fast. Good afternoon, area code 470. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Star?
Yes, sir.
No, first of all, I'm 24 years old. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
And no, Jussie Smollett is not no fucking gay Tupac. This nigga is not fucking Tupac. Nowhere near no Tupac. Never been no fucking Tupac in his life. I don't even know how he could even get close to making that comparison to fucking Tupac. He was out there doing some fucking Pokemon shit, 12 a.m. or 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, lying his ass.
2 a.m. Suspect and searching for the answers.
Yeah, you're right. 2 a.m. 2 a.m. was out there doing some fucking Pokemon shit, talking about you going for sandwiches. No, you wasn't going for no fucking sandwiches, nigga. You going for fucking dick. Out there doing some Pokemon shit.
Well, hang on a second. Listen, I appreciate the call. You're the same age that Tupac was when he died. No. Jussie got the sandwich. He's on camera, going back into his building with the sandwich and something around his neck. So he got the sandwich. Now the story is crazy as shit, because how are you fighting? I don't want to go too far left, but how are you fighting the fuck back, and you still have the sandwich? So we've all got issues with the goddamn story, but my concern here today, is he the new Tupac? This is what he said on the stage this past Saturday. I'll give you the final word.
Final word is, no, he's not no Tupac. He was out here yelling MAGA while beating his ass, apparently, and decided to give him back his sandwich after they finished beating his ass. All right, I'm done, sir. I'll call you back on another topic.
Thank you, man. Salute.
Appreciate you letting me call in, bro.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. And we don't have to clown Jussie. We've been clowning him, and I'm sure we will clown him again. We'll light his ass up like a Christmas tree. Probably tomorrow. I'm sure there will be something new tomorrow about Jussie. And folks, please keep me up to speed. When you see somebody write somewhere, I assure you it's coming, he's the new Tupac. Please email me. Hit me with the notification fast. I'm predicting this. That they will classify him as the new Tupac. Hang on a second. Let me go to the phone lines again. Area code 312. Good afternoon. 312.
Yes, good afternoon, Star. My name is Wade Grant, and I don't know if you got the tip from me yesterday with a couple of videos that came with it.
About what, sir?
About Jussie Smollett and what really happened from somebody in his camp.
Okay. I got a bunch of emails yesterday, but Sunday is the day that I power down and cuff a bit. So I was cuffing yesterday, and then I was watching that horrible Super Bowl. Can you bring me up to speed?
I feel you. Sure thing, man. So, put it like this. First and foremost, I'm a black blogger. So, a lot of my content is to, be like empowerment for black issues and stuff like that. But also I call my people out on their shit, so I can say that on the show. But anyway, so with the Jussie thing, so I got to speak directly from someone in his camp who was with him that day and the day after.
Come on, let's go.
Dude was never attacked, allegedly. I should say allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
He was never attacked. Right, allegedly he was never attacked. The scar that we see in the photo that Lee Daniels posted and then quickly deleted by everybody screenshotted, that scar was actually makeup put on by one of his people, allegedly. I should say allegedly. Furthermore, the reason why Jussie went to the police, and this is not in the media, so you're hearing it from me first, is because he was on the grinder tape like everybody suspected, allegedly, I should say allegedly, and had on, you know how it is, man. And
actually, so I don't, but I'm listening.
Out. he had on expensive jewelry while out.
Okay.
So he lost the jewelry while out. Now the person in his camp couldn't confirm if he was robbed or he definitely wasn't beaten because he said he didn't see no scar on Jussie's face because he was the one who put the quote-unquote scar on his face, allegedly. But if the jewelry was missing, his manager was trying to help him to claim the insurance on the jewelry. However, they needed to file a police report to report it stolen.
Okay, stop right there. Now, listen, I'm going to go back and look for your email because again, yesterday I was kind of swamped. But even if all this is true, for the most part, African Americans constantly get a bad label as being homophobic, when in fact they have been. Hang on, at this point, just give me a second. They have been very supportive, and as I said, the black church has been a safe haven in this country for hundreds of years with regards to gay black people. So that's not my issue, that's not my gripe. We just want the truth from Jussie, pardon me. On that stage last Saturday, or this past Saturday, he said, I will only stand...
He called himself Tupac.
Right, he said I'm the gay Tupac. But he said, I will only stand for love. I want him to stand for truth. What say you?
I say truth too, because first and foremost, I'm truth first, and then I'm pro-black next, and then pro-black LGBT.
Okay.
So with that said, because we can't quiet for freedom and equality and all that stuff when we can't hold each other accountable to make sure we rise up together. So what he's doing is setting us back as a community. I'm speaking about black LGBTQ people. Because a person like me being a victim a couple of times for appearing gay, way before I even said I was gay. So I know what being a real victim is like. And so what he's doing...
How old are you, sir? Can I just jump in and ask how old are you?
I'm 42. 42, Virgo, all that stuff.
So you know who Willie Ninja was? Yes, you know who Willie Ninja was?
Oh yeah. Icon in the ballroom scene, even though I has never been in the ballroom scene. Yeah. I'm old schoolish. But yeah, so the whole thing is according to the person in his camp. According to that person, he was allegedly never assaulted. The scar was allegedly makeup. Because also too, if you look at the scar, there's no, how you're light skin, so if you're going to get like a mark, there's going to be real blemishes around the mark.
If you ask me, it's a hickey. It's a pasture mark.
Discoloration.
It's a hickey.
Dude, this is why I listen to your show, because you're crazy.
Thank you, man.
But yeah, so you know, I mean, real is real, and people ask me, well, what do you want to come out of this? You just need to come out and tell the truth.
Right.
Too many guys are at stake over this stuff.
Yeah.
And then what I really hate, because I say I'm pro-black reform, pro-black LGBTQ, is that black men like Kevin Hart and D.L. Hughley are being attacked just for showing love to him and saying we support you.
Right.
So the fact that these guys who were two black queer people, which is another topic, because there's a difference between black queer people and black gay people.
Yeah.
Black queer people are the ones who are trying to tear black men down on Twitter. Black gay people don't care. We just want.
I've spoken about queer theory in the past. Queer theory, I spoke about that in detail.
Dude, I could have a different conversation on that one. But back to the matter at hand, what he's doing has black men attacked, has black LGBTQ people mocked and ridiculed, because everybody knows he's lying. All you have to do is say, look, I'm sorry, I messed up. You know what, going forward, I will work with.
I was high and chasing boy, cunt. I'm so sorry. Okay. That's what you should say. I was chasing that boy.
Well, I don't want to know all that.
I was chasing that boy, cunt, doing booty bumps. Pardon me, folks. I was out of control. That's what you need to say.
Yeah, I don't want to know all that. All I need to know is like Twitter was really a hate crime or not.
Yeah.
And he just, instead of running around claiming he's Tupac, because if he's Tupac, didn't Tupac go to jail or prison for doing the crime?
Yeah.
Allegedly, because we don't know he really raped a girl.
Yeah.
But Tupac went to prison.
Listen, I hate to cut you short, but stay in touch. Stay in touch. If you ever want to do a story on pioneering gay radio personalities back in 2001, I used to have a guy by the name of Derek LaBeija from the House of LaBeija. He was on my radio show, the Strong Buckwald Show. He used to do he used to do a segment called Lessons for the Children. Myself and Miss Jones brought him in, and he's a great guy. I haven't seen him in years, but there's a lot of history there. And again, hip hop has always been supportive. Hip hop also has had strong gay roots. So holla if you want to do something on Derek LaBeija, okay?
I'll send you another email just to follow up, okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care.
All right, peace.
Yes, sir. Peace. All right. Good conversation. What do you think, huh? Nobody's scared to acknowledge some of the things that have been promoted and again supported by African Americans and the Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans. This will sound pretty. Hang on a second. I was born in '64. And living in New York through the early '80s. Well, I moved to New York in 1981. Puerto Ricans are your pioneering drag queens in the streets. The Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, Pepe LaBeija, and all of those people, pioneered that. So again, this whole thing about, hating gays, blacks, and Hispanics, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But let's have a rational conversation with regards to Jussie Smollett claiming he's the gay Tupac. Let's go to area code 347. Good afternoon, 347. What are your thoughts on Jussie Smollett? Hello? Oh, you there? 347, testing, no?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, who are you?
Hello, how you doing, man?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing? So I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Are you sniffing coke? What are you doing? So come on, pay attention. We're asking a question. Jussie Smollett.
Nah, I ain't think that I was on the line just now, man, because I was just listening to it.
Okay. What's up?
Getting back to,
let's go.
Yeah, what's going on? Getting back to what you're saying regarding Jussie. I think, honestly, man, I think it was like, not so much of a, I think a few things happened, but I think that he saw an outlet to where he could challenge that and be like, oh, I'm the gay Tupac. And that's going to go far because of the love we have for Tupac. Right. So I think he wanted to be like revolutionary and a way for the gay community. So if you use Tupac's name, it's going to further your claim. Everybody, you're going to be the leader. You're going to be the leader for that cause. And that's where I think he's trying to go with it. But since
then everybody's starting to pull them out, and then you got the police investigation. It's starting to look a little fuzzy in the clouds for him, and I don't know if his airplane can fly through, man.
Okay, so yes, so that's the question. You know, is he, you know, not only claiming this, but will the media embrace him? I don't have a crystal ball, but you know, I worked at record labels for almost a decade. I did marketing, promotion, radio promotion. I see a media machine getting behind this guy. I think his music is going to start fucking popping off. I think his strings will triple, quadruple. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't know his fucking catalog, but I'm just curious, will he be embraced by the masses?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about that, sir. And I know you saw a lot too, because in all honesty, sir, I have, you know, followed your blog.
DOS movement. Yvette Carnell has been going hard in the paint, even though she's high yellow and she's a lesbian. I fuck with her heavy.
Well, see, to that, you know, we weren't always supportive, but we were not terrorizing them. So it's a difference, you know.
Hands down. That's one of my favorite rappers of all time, Slick Rick. All right, one more super chat, folks, and I have to roll out.
But I want to get Lisa in here.
Amir, 225 says,
well, I'd say, obviously, the Democrat Party wants him to step down, primarily because you look at the upcoming state elections that are happening in 2019 for the Virginia House of Delegates, as well as the state Senate, and additionally, federal elections that are coming up in 2020. So Democrats don't want this to be an indictment of the party as they head into an election year of 2019 and 2020, but he might not step down for the reason of the fact that in Virginia, governors only serve one term. So his political career was already likely going to be over after he served this term. So perhaps he decides to stay in for that reason.
Jamil, I'll bring you back. I'll be back in a moment.
Thank you, Harris.
Fox is alert, it's 2 p.m. in New York, and we're following several developing stories this hour. Virginia's governor facing an uncertain future, resisting calls from his fellow Democrats to resign over an ugly and racist photo. President Trump doubling down on his plans to pull U.S. troops from Afghanistan and Syria while keeping a military presence in Iraq to keep an eye on ISIS and Iran. And I made some queso last night, and apparently some people thought it was terrible. So I'm going to ask Greg Gutfeld what he thinks about that. Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, and this is a Daily Briefing. Embattled Governor Ralph Northam faces growing pressure to quit amid a universal condemnation of the racist photo under his name in his medical school yearbook. Garrett Tenney is alive in Richmond, Virginia. So where do things stand now with Governor Northam?
Well, Dana, Governor Northam said that he would only resign if he felt he could no longer be effective in serving as governor. And sources close to the situation tell me that he has been discussing with his senior aides whether or not that is the case. Their frustration, this coming from nearly every member of his party, both at the state and national level, has been building, calling on him to resign. And that comes in part not only from the racist yearbook picture, but also from his changing explanation as well as his admittance that he did have another situation in that same year where he wore blackface. Now, the challenge for Democrats is if Northam does not resign, there's not a whole lot they can do about it because there's quite a high bar in order to bring impeachment against him. And a lot of legal scholars suggest that a picture, racist or not or offensive, from 35 years ago would not meet that threshold, Dana.
And then just recently, the lieutenant governor spoke, and within the last hour, what did he say?
Yeah, well, he's been at the state capitol today overseeing the Senate where he presides, and as he was on his way out, he spoke to reporters, and he said he has not spoken to the governor since Saturday when Governor Northam had his press conference trying to explain that he was not in that yearbook picture. He said that he also has received no indication on what the governor's plans are going forward, whether or not he will resign. But he's also dealing with a bit of a controversy on his own and pushed back on reports that he sexually assaulted a woman 15 years ago, saying his relationship with her was consensual. Earlier this morning, his office released a statement saying in part, only now, at a time of intense media attention surrounding Virginia politics, has this false claim been raised again. The lieutenant governor will take appropriate legal action against those attempting to spread this defamatory and false allegation. Dana, we should point out that we have one that is involved.
Now, if you guys recognize this brother, you might recognize him from the Young Wrestlers.
has been mostly associated with since 1991. But this brother has been on the Cosby Show, Living Single, Martin, Jamie Foxx Show. He even did a show, if I'm not mistaken, with Gladys Knight, Flip Wilson, and Jameel White back in the day. So there's another Family Matters connection. I just realized that on Young and Restless, the brother that I forget his name, played Eddie Winslow right now. Garrett McCrae replaced Shamar Moore when Shamar Moore left. They played brothers for a minute, but he also worked with Jameel White back in the day and played brothers on that Gladys Knight show that I think it's called Charlie and Company, so if I'm not mistaken. They had on CBS around the time of Cosby premiered when everybody was trying to get a big version of a Cosby show on air. Anyways, Christophe St. John was found dead in his home yesterday at age 52. 52 years old. This dude grew up in front of us. If you guys remember watching TV in the 70s and early 80s, that little light-skinned black kid. I remember the first time I recognized him was on an episode of Wonder Woman when it was still aired on ABC. But by the time that aired, it was in rerun by the time I saw it. He was by then a teenager. But the episode I remember first saw him on was the episode of Wonder Woman, where it was instead of World War II, where one of the ranchers, Roy Rogers, the late Roy Rogers, y'all probably heard back in the day our parents were watching Roy Rogers and shit like that. But anyways, his son, biological son, was jealous that his father was spending time with his adopted children. This British white boy, this Native American boy that didn't speak, Christophe St. John's black character, and an Asian kid, if I remember correctly. And that's the first time my memory of him, because it was, at that time you see a lot of kids, having prominent roles in superhero shows, at least at my memory of at that time. Because by the time I saw Wonder Woman, it was new to me, but it already been off the air at least 2 or 3 years by the time I started to recognize the show. I think probably about 8, it went out the show in 79, I think 78, 79. Yes, I think it went out the air in 79, if I'm not mistaken. So, by the time, no, it went out, 79, so by the time I was watching it, was going to be about 1980, 81, when I started formulating my memories of it. But anyways, Christophe St. John has been on TV for a minute. He's done walk-in parts and shows. He was always he played the surfer dude. I think he was in a different world at one time when Lisa Bonet character, was that him? I think he played the surfer, the one that Denise at the library or something. And I think he's been on a lot of stuff, is what I'm trying to say. And like I said, The Young and Restless was his most prominent role. And I hope that he didn't commit suicide, but the way it sounds, he died of alcohol poisoning, and maybe it was an unintentional suicide, or maybe it was a planned suicide or a slow kill. What I mean by that is his eldest son, committed suicide 4 years ago, and he ain't been right since. He had took a leave of absence from Young and Restless. He aged a little bit. And they said January 21st, he left a message, and I'll leave a link to it, where he made a comment about his slow burn, slow death, or something like that, when you lose a child. But here it is, his son committed suicide 40 years ago. And if you guys watch any entertainment shows, you can tell it's hitting him hard. I mean, he hit him hard. And I remember him being on TV recently, and he was still talking about it. I'm not saying you're not supposed to talk about it, because when a person close to you die, it affects you. I know I've talked to adults who lost children, and the first thing they say, I'm supposed to go before my child, not the other way around. So I suspect that heavy drinking and things that he's gone through, and if it's proven it's alcohol related death or suicide, I think it relates back to his son committing suicide nearly 5 years ago, I should say, that was 2014. But my prayers go to his family, his friends. I think, I'm not honestly, he had young daughters, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, young or old, my prayers go out to him and his family and friends and co-workers, because when I saw him, like, what? But in the back of my mind, I'm sort of like, I'm not shocked, because if you guys, maybe you guys have seen what I've seen, you watch different programs going on there, you can tell that the dude was in a fragile place. And like I said, I back in my mind, I remember him saying that he had to go into counseling, because I think it was rumored or suggested that he might hurt himself at one point. I remember watching, I hope his brother don't do anything that will take him away from his family and friends. But I say this to my people, because I know this is a narrative that a lot of people talking absolutes about. You know, they say blacks don't go to counseling. There are blacks who go get counseling, and there are blacks who don't go get counseling. And I suggest to you, brothers and sisters, if you can, or you talk to somebody. Because let me tell you something, when I came home, I was in a bad place, man. You know, when you see everybody yelling around you, and you're yelling all days, and you fight for your life, in the hospital and stuff, you know, you come home, you have survivor's guilt, you have nightmares, you get in complications, all kinds of things. And I'm not gonna lie, I do suicide all the time. Yeah, I'm gonna tell everybody something, don't get me wrong, because I get depressed, I get frustrated, because I know what it is, when I want to take my life. But if you know, if you learn to suffer with somebody close to you in a certain way or traumatized, you don't victimize, you don't think you have to, it's about saying I can't traumatize me, because you got to choose why it's and you say, well, why is it on that slave? This stuff is bad, yeah, this stuff is bad enough, how do you somebody died, hopefully a child, and you go, man, that is I'm going to it's not natural. Even though you have no way to control it, you die, you know, it's a white
well known
So when I saw these things, I wasn't quite shocked, but it was sad. So, of course, I got an article on TMZ with my getting into the article. TMZ is reporting that Christoph style of the long-running soap opera Young Residence was found dead on Sunday. Law enforcement sources tell us one of Christoph's friends which on him at his home in San Fernando Valley found his body. Paramedics were located outside the house. They were told Christoph was found dead on the scene.
He lost that race, but they really tagged him with the same thing.
Now is out there, used against anyone. Quite frankly, this will not be the end of it. I mean, the attorney general now is faced with another charge related to sexual matter. I don't think it's right to stop with going north. I suspect other Democrats are out of his mind themselves, working the same position as he is.
Research either by the media or by their opponents to your yearbook.
If it's fair game to extend once it passes like this, extending back to college years or even high school years, the ones with Brett Kavanaugh, then anybody is hurt. We understood that during the Kavanaugh hearings, and now you have Governor North is being subjected to the exact same standard. It's going to keep happening, no question about it.
All right, now, Dan Hager, thanks for making time for us today. President Trump facing backlash from Iraq's president after announcing plans to keep U.S. military forces in Iraq until he was notified on the ground. It's not designed to withdraw ground forces from Iraq and Afghanistan. White House correspondent joins us now.
Always good to be with you, my friend. Now, the president's comments that surprises supporters. During the 2016 campaign, he was repeatedly calling for an end to non-stateless individuals and conflicts all over the globe. Now, that said, his comments about Iraq this last time, they certainly did raise eyebrows.
We have an unbelievable expensive desert that is still in Iraq. It's perfectly situated rather than pulling up, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. We're going to keep watching, and we're going to keep seeing if there's trouble, if somebody's getting into a weapons or anything.
Back at least publicly fuel. What's the big deal? We're going to tip our hands. He said in that interview with CBS